Welcome to Why Not Us podcast. It's your host Ken J, and tonight in the building, I got my boy Dave. Man, what's the business, Dave?
Man, just trying to live my best life.
Hey, you already know the vibes, man. Dave, how you feeling mentally today?
I feel good. I feel a bit overwhelmed. I'm on the back end of like a big busy chunk of life, and a lot of things finally finished out, and now I'm kind of trying to put the pieces back together and get ready for the next, 3-4
Okay,
months of, focus, right?
for sure, for sure. So, like, when you say that you just overwhelmed right now, is it like everything that you just did? Have you always seen yourself doing that?
Um, I think overwhelmed for me is when I've got a lot of like open loops going, right? Like
Okay.
there's a lot of incomplete tasks or a lot of things I have to do on, there's this stack of insurmountable things on my plate to do or to think about or to figure out. And you start getting kind of behind on those. So you're never quite getting caught up. And yeah, that's me overwhelmed, right? Like some stuff started sliding. I got so busy, life got chaotic, and so I got to a point where I had too much stuff to do and no time to get caught up. So you kind of have to slow down a little bit and sort through what's important and what's not, and dig back out the overwhelm.
Facts. That all you said right there is so true. It is so true. Cause sometimes we just need to just sit still and
Hmm.
just sit in the moment. Just now. Just be grateful for now. And then you will start to understand, like, things start uncluttering in your mind, and you start understanding the path you need to go. And it's just like, aha, that's what I need to do.
Yeah, well, if you like you said, if you're present, if
Hmm.
because all that exists is right now.
Right.
Everything else is a memory or an imagination. It's on one end or the other. So if you just focus on what's in front of you and trust yourself to handle this little bit in front of you, and then you handle that little bit, you create a cycle where I know I'm handling what I need to now, so I also trust future me to handle
Hmm.
that bullshit in the future that I'm worried about. So I don't need to worry about it because if I can handle this stuff when I get to that, I can handle that too.
Yeah, yeah. And it's so much power in just doing what you said, just focusing on now in the present moment, because you can't get to the future because you right here. This
Yeah,
is where you at right now.
you're
So
heading
it's
that
like,
direction as fast as you
yeah,
can go.
yes, but it's like we always are waiting for the outcome. We're not really enjoying the experience, if that makes sense, right?
Yeah, yeah, for sure. Well, we're so focused in life on, and we're kind of programmed this way of the next big step, right? And
Yeah.
we're always looking for when I get there, things will be different or things will be better or I'll be
Mm-hmm.
complete. When I finish high school, then I'll be an adult then, or like when I get married, that's when I'll be complete and be able to actually live my life. And it's like, no, life is the journey. It's the lonely times, it's the fun times, it's the ups and the downs. All of it is part of life. Like that is the point, is the day to day is the point.
Facts. That's what it is. But that's what we used to do. Like, man, it's like we always trying to skip over what we got happening right now. You
Yeah.
feel what I'm saying? Because it's like, okay, I manifested this, but we actually walking in a dream for real. We actually doing what we want to do, but we so caught up on different things. Like, man, it ain't big enough. It ain't that. But
Mhm.
just enjoy where you at right now.
Right. And it's when all the reward or when all the happiness is attached to the end goal, then you kind of suck the happiness out of the right now. Like the
Yeah.
work isn't fun anymore. Like you're not excited about where I'm headed. So you gotta try being present in this moment and doing today's little thing well. You gotta find joy in those little things. Just like, building the rapport with yourself of, hey, if I set out to do something, I'll do it. So future me will take care of his stuff too. Like Yeah, creating that cycle, creating that happiness in the moment
Hmm.
accumulates to a happy life, right?
Yes, that's what it is, man. And like I seen your reels, right? I was telling
Mhm.
you that I hit you up in your inbox on Instagram. I'm
Yep.
like, man, like I like your energy. Like I just knew that you was a good soul. Like I just seen peace within you. Like I'm like, that they my peoples right there. That's my peoples. Even though I ain't even know you, but it felt like I knew you. You know what I'm saying? Like I was
Yeah.
like, yo, I know what that feel like. That's peace.
Yep.
So I had to hit you up because everything I do with intentions. That's everything I do in life from this day forward. Like being on your track, you just know you got to be intentional. You got to have the right intentions. I'm like, man, I love to have a conversation with Dave.
Yeah.
Like
Well, that's a great point. I mean, if you're just if you're not doing something with intention, if you're just kind of floating around, then you don't know where you're going to end up, what's going to happen. It's like floating in the ocean. You're just kind of at the mercy of the waves. Whereas
yeah.
if you're doing stuff with intention, you can take your life the direction you want to go.
Yes, that's what it is. It's
Yeah.
all about being able to just have conversations with everybody and being able to connect on a meaningful level. So we get so caught up in this and that, we forget that we are all just humans, and it's like we're spiritual beings. You understand? So it's like,
Yeah.
you got to connect with your peoples, man. You got to have a conversation with people. You got to see how they feeling today. Just take a chance, take a risk. It's okay.
Yeah. I mean, how else do you connect with people? How else do you know what's going on?
You
Like
don't, man.
and that goes back to what you were talking about earlier with, you know, the news always telling the bad stories and whatnot. If everybody's always afraid, then I'm afraid to go talk to you because I'm already feeling afraid. I'm afraid to reach out. I'm always like trying to be careful and not let people too close to me.
Yeah,
I'm not
yeah.
closed off, guarded, and you can't meet new people. You can't have openness and build good relationships that way. Somebody's got to bridge the gap, and if everybody's like back and guarded and hiding, then who's going to do it?
Facts, man. You gotta just know. Like I used to be scared of rejection. So
Mm,
I used to shy away like a lot. Like, what I'm saying? Just not knowing. Knowing that, I could do A, B, C, and D, but not knowing that I was really enough. I still kind of need validation from everybody else.
well, you
Right?
you you were like rejecting yourself in your mind before you even
Facts.
tried. Yeah, you weren't even giving yourself the chance.
Yeah. So with this podcast, man, I just been taking chances. I just been doing what I feel like doing, like, understanding about connecting people together and letting people be their most authentic selves, because people really can't voice how they feel. It's like everybody kind of scared to talk because you don't know if you're gonna offend somebody,
Yeah,
right? So it's like, man, listen, let's just have a conversation, open conversation. Let's vibe, let's talk, man. That's what it's all about. Like, it's no rules in talking. If we're
Let-
not
let's
disrespecting each other,
right. Yeah, let's get out and gain some XP. Right, get some of those experience points. Just kind of figure it out because you're bound to learn something, right?
facts, facts. And you love the wilderness, right?
Hmm.
What
So
about go ahead. Go ahead.
talking about peace,
Yeah.
I've found, and everybody handled COVID differently. I was in a really bad relationship cycle. I was dating this girl that it was not a good setup. Like we were not a good mix. But it was the same cycle that I'd gone through over and over. Like I always dated the same type of girl and had the same kind of result. And I was like,
Mm-hmm.
why does this always happen to me? And it's like,
Yeah.
well,
Yeah.
step back and take a look. You're doing this to yourself.
Yeah.
Um, so COVID hit, the world got crazy. I was single and I'd finally taken control of my physical health. Like I'd gotten really bad out of shape for a while and I was starting to get back in shape. And I was like, man, I've always wanted to be like, I've always loved adventure. I watched some movies about exploring and I'm like, oh, I'd love to do that. I was like what's the quickest way, the best way for me to like take a leap into that world. And um, went on this backpacking trip with a bunch of other people. It was hosted. It had a guide, and they kind of walked you through it. And getting out there with other people that I didn't really know up to that point, and climbing mountains together, doing this hard thing together, created a bond that was wild. It wasn't something I'd experienced before. And being out in nature also is like, it's like a soft reset. Have you ever like had your phone going nuts? It's not working right, and you do that forced shutdown, and it comes back on, and everything's good again.
Yep.
That's what it's like going out and like on one of these mountain trips and just completely getting out into the real world, because the box I'm sitting in, that's not the real world, not at all. So yeah, getting out in nature, it realigns you with what's important in life, like food, water, and shelter. If we've got that, we're living better than 99.9% of the world, right? Like,
right.
Yeah, it's great. And then mentally, like if you want to talk kind of scientifically, logistically, if you will, being out there for the full cycle of sun up, sun down, a couple of days, it resets your kind of sleep schedule and your circadian rhythm, if you will. It kind of helps that realign, and you feel more centered, more one. When you come back, you're like seeing cars and stuff. You're like, what the fuck are we doing? And like,
yeah, I got you.
It's great, and it makes coming back and doing the grindy parts of life more enjoyable. As I do it with a different perspective. Like I do these things so I can do another thing, right? I work, I build my business so that I can, do adventures, so I can take my nieces and nephews out and climb some mountains and those sorts of things.
Man, so listen, when you was hiking and you was building y'all was walking, y'all was like navigating together, figuring it out together type energy, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of like you trusting. It's kind of like you trusting people. Like you have to gain somebody's trust type vibe.
And we're carrying all of our equipment. We're carrying our food for 3 days. We're carrying our tent, our sleeping bag, our water, stoves, all this different equipment with us, and it weighs a lot. People have packs between 35, 40 pounds. And you're climbing mountains too, so you're not just like walking flat ground. So you're doing a very physically hard thing, and you have to have faith, because we got to set, like, we're typically doing a loop. So once you're out there, like until you make it back to your car, you're out there. So you have to trust all your people with you to be capable and responsible of carrying their burden for the duration of it. So you're out there doing a hard thing, and I can carry my burden, and I can encourage you while you carry your burden, but I can't carry yours for you. And it builds a great camaraderie of how do we keep our spirits up? How do we force our perspective to focus on the fun parts, the good parts, the beauty out there, regardless of the discomfort that we're experiencing?
That's powerful.
Yeah, I've got a perspective on life that we've gotten to a place, especially in our society, where we equate inconvenience with suffering. Like, our Big Mac takes 15 minutes instead of 3, and we're like, what a hard day. And it's like, well, there's people starving, a few hours away from you right now. Is it really that big of a deal? And we've extracted ourselves so far from the real world into these safe little air-conditioned boxes that the slightest inconvenience to us, we treat as danger, as, we're suffering, our life is going to fall apart, and it's really not. Like, we don't often experience, any kind of major suffering in lives, except for little pockets here and there. So we get detached from the reality of what it takes to, push yourself through it.
You got to really push yourself through it. Like, it's like you have to trust yourself to get through it. because that's the hardest thing for real. It's just like really like, yo, I could really trust myself. Okay, I could trust myself. Okay, I believe in myself. It's like you really have to have a pep talk with yourself. And then when you start doing things, you're like, oh, I could do it. Like I could do that. And then like I'll get overwhelmed and I cry because I can't believe that I didn't trust myself. It's like I get so overwhelmed, like emotional. Like I really
Yeah.
be having, I be like just so grateful that I was able to get through it. So I release, I cry, but it's tears of joy. Like, yo, I did that. I believe in myself.
Yep.
Like, real talk.
And then you think about how much time I sat there, doubting that I could have done it to begin
Yeah.
with if I just went for it, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it always seems to be the first step that's the hardest, right? So
Yeah.
a trick I found, especially when I'm overwhelmed or I'm struggling or I'm not keeping up, I start getting that depressed feeling of like I'll never get caught up. So why even try? I start procrastinating, getting really complacent,
Mm-hmm.
and I have to break my stuff down into like stupidly small steps and create momentum. So, and sometimes it's like, all right, I'm going to go sit down at my desk and turn my computer on. That's my next step. And I do that. And it's like, all right, a little bit of momentum. That's a tiny little thing. I said I was going to do it. I made that commitment I was going to do it.
Mm-hmm.
I fulfilled the commitment. I built some trust with myself enough to
Mm-hmm.
be like, all right, I did that one little thing. Let me do something bigger. And so like, well, I'm going to open my browser and get my, software set up and all that. So I do that and it takes me 35 seconds. So I'm like, all right, I'm getting some momentum. And then I'll, do this block or I'll do that block or I'll do the
Mm-hmm.
emails or something and start stacking those tiny little things and create that little bit of a snowball effect. And before you know it, you're in the flow of like, all right, I'm just doing what I got to do. And it's fun.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's what it is too. Cause you really start getting in the flow of things. Like, and that's what it looked like too. Like those steps, like, man, I don't feel like doing this, but you like, man, I gotta do it. So you do what you say, and then you just get in the flow. And then you just be on the flow for a couple days or a couple weeks. You know what I'm saying? You just going, you just trusting yourself again. Cause
Yeah.
sometimes
You're in that rhythm.
yeah, so you in the flow of things, things are happening, like different blessings coming through. It's just like good energy. Everybody you meet and cross your path got good energy because you got good energy.
Well, you attract it, right? It's
Yeah.
like, have you ever get a new car and say you get like a red pickup truck, for example, and suddenly you're driving around and now you notice, oh, there's a red truck just like mine. Oh, there's another one over there. It's the same way when we change who we are, when we set our energy to be different or set our energy to be open and friendly, then we're automatically going to align with other people who are that way. So,
Facts.
yeah,
Facts. True indeed. You know what I'm saying? Like it's like it's kind of like, yo, like this really happening. Okay. Like I would just be having like little aha moments sometimes, man. Like I just manifestations real.
yeah. What
Manif-
what's one of the most meaningful manifestations you've had in your life?
mm.
It doesn't necessarily have to be like the biggest one, but like
Nah, it's just
but
like
one that stands out.
being able to sit still with myself, like being able to sit in solitude, being able to be by myself.
Be at peace alone.
Like,
Yeah,
yeah, like understanding, like, yo, this is it's being at peace. So that's what I'll say. Just being able to be okay with not having a lot of people cheering for you. Just being okay
yeah,
with that.
yeah.
So I'll say that's what I'll say. What
Man,
about you?
I don't. I wasn't ready for you. To, like reverse that one back on me. I didn't know the answer.
Hey.
Um, I think one of the biggest things that I've manifested is my community. Um, I grew up super strict religious and kind of separate path, and it wasn't like one of the good religions. It was there's a lot of sketchy stuff going on, and I got, kicked out, like disowned by my family, all that kind of stuff. So I kind of had to start over, and I was very guarded after that. I was careful about making friends because, if my family kicked me out, then what good's, a friend going to be, right? So as I kind of like fixed what was going on up here, I've over the last few years been able to actually build a community that's like family again, like having
Mm-hmm.
brothers, like having people that I can count on, people that I know will, go to bat for me or back me up, or like looking out for my best interest even when I'm not around. And
Yeah.
that's that's been massive. It goes hand in hand with the finding peace and being alone, like learning how to
Mhm.
be at peace with yourself.
Yeah.
You can then be at peace with other people. Like
Yep.
you can't give what you don't have, right? So if you don't learn to love you, you can't really love your brother. You can't love, your family, your significant other, whatever,
Mm-hmm.
because you don't know what love is yet. You don't have any in you to give.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like learning how to love myself and be good in solitude. I was then
Yes.
able to learn how to be good with other people as well, and
Yes.
people that aligned with who I actually want to be.
F- That's the energy. But religion, religion is a powerful subject because I had to break away from religion, but I'm spiritual. You understand?
Those are
I'm
different things
spiritual.
too.
I'm spiritual. So what I'm saying is with religion, it was like I was in a box.
Yep.
You know what I'm saying? So it was like I was in a box. I had to be A, B, C, and D
Like
to
here's
make
our
it.
one answer for everything.
Yeah. So, but like over here on this side, it's just like, yo, I'm just being. I'm just
Yeah.
being. No, no. Isn't I'm whole. Like I'm whole just like I am. Like it's nothing wrong with me. You know what I'm
Yeah.
saying? Like I had to tell myself, like, yo, it's nothing wrong with you. You are of love. It's nothing, you're not a demon, you
You
know?
you are the human experience.
Yes. So it's
You're,
like, but it's like I used to be mad at people, you know what I'm saying? But now it's like I kind of understand their perspective in a way. It's kind of like, oh, like I ain't even mad at you. I understand your perspective because you caught up over there. But when
yeah,
you break free and really understand that, yo, I'm God's highest form of creation.
right.
Like I'm already whole.
Yeah.
You feel me? That's the energy I'm on. So it's just like I had to let go of church hurt because I was holding on to it so long. I was so mad at what this person said, that person said. Why did they treat me like that? That's how I was feeling. I was mad. I
Oh
didn't even
yeah.
want to do nothing with them. Like I was just so mad. But then when I was like, yo, I gotta let that go. I used my voice to tell people how I really felt. And I
Yep.
was holding on to that for so long. When I was being able to open up my throat chakra and speak my truth, that was the greatest form of liberation for me.
When you finally were able to give it a voice, right?
Yes,
Yeah, especially
yes.
after holding it down for so long. You finally like get it out there, you're like, man,
Yes, and I ain't even need to do nothing else. I just let it go because I don't even have to pick that back up. That's what it was. I had to let that go. I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. I'm not mad at you. I'm of love and light. I'm of love
yeah,
and light. I'm of love and light. It's nothing wrong with me. So, like, nobody can tell. Like, you can't beat me in the head and try to make me feel bad for who I am now. Like
right, yeah.
nothing. It's like, yo, I know who I am. I am.
Well,
So that's the energy I got.
yeah, once you accept yourself, then you're accepted.
Yeah.
I think because I had a lot of resentment too, and that anger, like why'd they do me like that, or this wasn't fair, easily turns into resentment, and it put me in a really bad place for a lot of years. Um, I don't, not necessarily the people themselves, just like the whole situation. Like, this wasn't a fair shakeout of life, right? And I think like the biggest final piece and like me moving past all of that was when I learned, or like when I came to understand that every person that I had anger towards or that had gone out of their way to be hurtful towards me, every one of them was doing the absolute best that they could with
Mm-hmm.
what they had experienced and understood to that point in their life. Right or
Yeah.
wrong, regardless of how it affected me, it was their best. Like that was them doing their best to, you know,
Yeah.
have a good life. And I don't think it was good decisions, but
Mm-mm.
that's their choice. And I'm not the main character in their story. I'm the main character in mine. So why is my
Facts.
story going to be focused on what they did?
That's what it is. It's like we focus on the problem rather than the solution too.
Yeah,
So, we be so caught up in, man, my phone isn't working. My phone isn't working. But bruh, if you just plug your charger in your phone, it'll charge. And then it's like just focus on what you can do and get out of the
yep,
situation. So it's kind of like you get compassion for people in a different way. It's like the hatred or whatever you felt for them kind of turns into love, like because you coming into love. So it's like I kind of look at things differently. I ain't mad at you no more. You
yep.
stay over there, that's your perspective. But what they got to do with me?
I'm not mad at you. You may not have space in the life
Yeah,
that I'm creating, but
yeah,
I don't have energy to be mad at you.
yeah,
Yeah. Yep.
yeah.
Um, I found that in all the like development and the finding peace and all that I worked on, I found that me personally, I'm the average of what I've done the past 30 days. No matter what I see myself as, what ideas I have about myself, who I really am is the average of my thoughts and actions for the past 30 days, right? Because it doesn't matter what I did, 20 years ago. That was a completely different person. And it doesn't
Facts.
matter what I'm going to do 20 years in the future. Like who I am today is 100% the average of my last 30 days. And
Mm,
with people, with relationships, if that's not somebody that I want affecting me and changing who I am, I'm not going to get around that energy. Like I'm not going to get around those people. Like why would I? Like my time, my energy is sacred to me. I do a lot
yes.
of stuff. And I have to say no to people I love all the time. Like, hey, we want to do this or do that. Like I can't. I've got other things going on. Like I've got to prioritize this thing or that. Like, why am
Hmm.
I going to say yes to this bullshit energy that's coming from people I don't even like?
Facts.
It's
Facts.
not going to be. It's not going to have a place in my last 30 days or in my next. So why I even got to think about it anymore?
Yeah, like it's just like a different energy. It's like you don't move the same way anymore. So it's like, yo, it's like you have more boundaries. Like you respecting
Yeah.
yourself. So it's like you having boundaries. But when you first start learning how to put boundaries in, it's kind of like, yo, it feel weird. Like it feel like you going against, but
Well, that's what they teach you. They teach you to betray everything that's you and
yeah,
give it up for what they say.
yeah,
And it's the opposite. If you're valuable, if you're important to you, the most valuable things have the strongest boundaries, the most set boundaries. Like you don't leave the biggest diamond out on your front porch. You have that thing locked up in a safe. You are
facts.
very careful about who has access into that. Now, if it was yesterday's garbage, I throw that out, in the can and roll it up to the curb. I don't care. There's hardly any boundaries on that. But if it's valuable, I'm gonna have it locked up, protected. I'm gonna have armed guards, whatever. So my time, my energy is going to be protected. If we're not on the same wavelength,
Yeah,
if we're not mutually like benefiting each other's life, staying in a good place,
yeah.
then why are we gonna waste our time, right?
Facts. But it seemed like life keep giving you the same test over and over again. But it seemed like, yo, okay, I already set this boundary, but it's like it keeps seeing if you really setting those boundaries. So the same, like, listen, I had the same thing happen to me 5 times in a row, like 5 days in a row. You know what I'm saying? Like I used to have a problem with telling people no, right?
Yep.
Like when people hit me up like, yo, I need money, I need this, I need that. So it's like,
That's
yo,
self-betrayal again. Like, I'll give up me.
yeah. So
No
like,
point.
man, yes, okay, I'm a good person. I have to do this. And I was like, man, I'm getting tired of people. No, I've been telling people no. Like, as soon as somebody texts me and I feel like it's going in the other way, is no. You feel what I'm
Yeah.
saying? I don't even care. Like, it's no. Like, I have to let people like, no, I don't do this anymore. No, I don't do this anymore, because
Yep.
people used to tell me sad stories about their kids, about this and that. And that used to really break me down. Like, what would Jesus do? That was the energy I used to be on.
Shame, guilt, and fear. Like, no one who has your best interest in mind will use shame, guilt, or fear against you. It's always people trying to
Fast.
manipulate you. So the guilt of like, oh, Jesus would do this. Why
Mm-hmm.
won't you? The shame of like, oh, well, you're not going to be a good Christian, whatever,
Yeah, and then I was like, yo, I ain't Jesus.
right?
I had to
Jesus,
say,
Jesus can
man,
make
I
hey,
ain't Jesus, bro.
Jesus can make that stuff appear, man.
Yeah, man, go ahead, man. I ain't Jesus, bro. And then I just had things were just happening, um, like people were trying to come close to me, but I was like,
Mhm.
man, it's like my intuition picked up on their energy quicker. Like,
Yep.
no, it's like, but it's something kind of off when a person is trying to basically buy your friendship or try to do things to pull you in a way or try to, you know what I'm saying? It's like, no, like, bruh, if we naturally fit type vibe.
Yep.
If I want to have a conversation with you, I want to have a conversation with you. But I'm not about to give you $10 or this and that and buy you a chapstick and your favorite water for you. No, that's weird to me.
Yeah.
That's weird to me. I can't be bold. I can't be bold.
Yeah.
But you see different patterns. You just look at people differently. There's a lot of people trying to, because some people like the trauma bond too. You
Mm.
feel what I'm saying? Like, for real. Like, and then sometimes you feel like, yo, is a because sometimes you need to heal different parts of you, so different people are still being attracted to you. But when you understand what issues you got, you're able to put a wall up. Like, nah, stay over
Yeah.
there. I'm
Well,
sending you healing energy.
yeah, it's the yin and the yang, if you will. It's like that's one thing that killed me with relationships. I was making the same mistake all the time, and I learned that the person I was only left space for this other kind of person in the relationship, and so I'd look for this other kind of person to fit, and that other kind of person was always the same kind of person, and until I changed who I was, another person wouldn't fit, right? Or the type of person I'd prefer to be with. Like,
Yeah.
if I had chaos in my life, I'm not going to find somebody who's super stable and has their shit together to be like, oh yeah, bring some chaos in my life. No, they're going to want that stable energy. They're going to want somebody who's well regulated.
Facts.
Yeah.
Facts. And also, like, if you with somebody that already love themselves, like they already love themselves, they love themselves enough to walk away anytime. And
Hmm.
sometimes people teach you how to love yourself, like, in a way, like, for real, like they teach you how to love you the way that they love themselves. And sometimes
Yeah.
people can't open up to you on that level because they know that you not loving yourself. You know what
Yeah.
I'm
Well,
saying? For
on-
real.
once you find peace, like you were
Yeah.
saying, you have intuition about people that are coming that would upset that peace, whether they're good people or bad people, and
Yeah.
you know to create boundaries with those people now. Take that to a
Yeah.
romantic setting. Someone who has that love for themselves, that they have
Mm-hmm.
everything sorted out in their life, that they've kind of figured out their pros and cons and know how to manage them. If you come to a person like that and you don't also reflect those same values and that same work you've already done on yourself, they're going to
Mm-hmm.
set a boundary with you. They're not going to you know compromise their boundaries to get in your mess and then bring them down. No, they worked really hard for that.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
they help. Like, they
Oh, they'll
when
point you in the right
somebody,
direction.
huh?
They'll point you in the right direction.
Facts. And it's
Yeah.
like, yo, once you start really understanding your worth, they like, yo, listen, I was pushing you. Like, my partner, she pushed me. You know what I'm saying? She pushed me. She challenged me. She didn't coddle me. It's like she challenged me. I never really had nobody challenge me like that, man. And she had boundaries, and I had to respect her boundaries.
Yep.
So I learned how to I learned about boundaries from the way that she was like, "Yo, these are my boundaries, and you gonna respect them." So I learned a lot of, like, for real. It was kind of like,
How amazing
wow,
is that? Of like someone who actually knows their stuff enough to be like, hey, this is where I'm at.
yeah,
And we function together if we stay within these parameters. If we don't, then it's just not going to work. So why waste?
that's
They don't want to waste your time. And so, like, hey, this is where I fit. Like, if we fit together, great. If we don't, then we figured out what we were trying to figure out. We don't fit.
fast. That's what it is, man. That's what
Yeah.
it is. So listen, when you went hiking, right?
Hmm.
So when you went hiking, did y'all use like compasses, and like what did y'all use? Did y'all have a trail or
Yeah, so we followed some trails out there. There's trails all through the mountains, and a lot of them. There's a lot of them that are marked and maintained. So um, you can get out there and kind of make your way with the map and knowing where you're at. You can make your way around, and or typically when I go out, I'll plan a route ahead of time and just follow trails that are there already. Because
okay,
you don't
okay,
want to get too far off, like in just open wilderness and disturb critters out there in their homes and things of that nature. Um,
okay, okay.
you want to try to have as minimal impact as possible. So we're not leaving any trash back there. We're not tearing up the environment. We're just kind of cruising through, seeing what's out there. Swimming a little river here and there, and camp out. And yeah,
So look, when you're on that trail, it's no like no bears, it's none of that type energy there. Like, I
yeah. There's
mean,
bears out there. There's all sorts of critters. They don't bother people really. The,
okay,
the big thing you have to be careful of with animals is there's on a lot of these trails there's established campsites. So it's got a little fire ring where you make the fire. It's where people typically stay, and they do that because the idea is you never store food at that campsite. You always take it out and store it. You hide it up in a tree. You put it in some airtight container so that
mm,
the critters don't smell it, because you don't want to taint that campsite. Because
okay,
once an animal finds food there, they always come back. So if they find
okay.
food in your tent, well, forever they're always going to come back to that spot looking for food. And so whoever camps there next, well, the critter's just going to automatically show up whether they have food or not.
Oh, dang, man.
So that's how.
So,
So
so
yeah, that's
did
how you do. You just respect the
okay.
campsite. You keep your food stored well. You don't go making a bunch of new campsites, because then you're more likely to have animals attracted to those areas, right?
Okay. So what did you see out there? Like what animals did you see while y'all was on the hiking, doing the hiking thing? Like what did you see?
That first one, we saw a bunch of little rodents. We saw one really big rattlesnake. Um,
Mm.
but that was pretty much it. Like, and the rattlesnake wasn't close enough where we were, you know, caught off guard or in fear for anything. It wanted to be left alone, and we wanted to be left alone. So we kind of saw it, and it rattled at us just to let us know that it saw us, and we kind of went on our separate way, made our way around him.
Mm. So you ain't scream?
No, like we weren't caught
Oh.
off guard. We
Oh
came
yeah,
around.
cause I would have screamed, bro. Dave, I would have screamed. I'm scared of stuff. Listen, if that's
No,
my first time hiking.
the one that would have gotten me. So that I went with a guide and with a group, and then uh, a couple months after, I went out with two friends from that same group. We went and kind of did our own unguided thing. And then another couple months later, I went out with just me and my cousin who'd never been backpacking before. And we just like picked a spot and went. Our first night, we camped out. We got up the next morning, we're like packing up, and a black bear runs through our camp, like 15 feet away from us. And we're the campsite had this brush, like this thick, like kind of like blackberry patch kind of brush all around it, like
Mhm.
short trees. And it sounded like a person was running through it. Like we're kind of sitting there packing up, and suddenly we hear this massive noise, a person crashing through, and you just kind of freeze. And I'm like, do I go for my gun? Do I go for my trekking poles? What do I defend myself with? I'm like, huh. and a black bear runs through, and it's over, and that was the whole encounter. And I about peed my pants a little bit, but it it was there and gone in a moment, and it had no interest in us. Sometimes critters do, very rarely though, especially in the well trafficked areas. It's more super wilderness stuff that you get more of that, especially like up in Alaska and places like that where it's wild.
Yeah, because I mean, if that black bear, man, like, yo, I would have been,
As big as I was,
man, what your cousin do?
we both just froze and it was over. Like that was it. Like if it came at us, maybe there would have been a slightly different reaction, but it kind of just went across and that was it.
I mean, he ain't look at y'all and he just.
So he was running from dogs. Dogs were kind of trying to run him down and track him or whatever. So he had no interest in us at all.
Man, so y'all seen dogs? That y'all heard them?
Yeah, you could hear the dogs.
Oh wow!
Yeah,
so are they wild dogs or are they somebody else's dog or?
They're, I think they're run by the game warden. So they'll tag the bears and keep up with them.
Okay, got you.
I think they're just probably trying to chase them down and update a tag or something like that.
Wow, man. So when y'all was hiking up the mountain, did you have to like pull yourself up or was it more like on the trail? Because like the cliffhanger type energy.
Yeah, so sometimes there'll be ropes or steel cables along the side and like really slippery or steep areas. It just depends on where you're at. A lot of the spots that I go, there's a little bit of rocks and trees that you have to scramble over. We call them scrambles, where you kind of have to use all fours to navigate certain areas. But that's about as bad as it gets most of the time. You can go do some like ridges and things that you have cables all over, or you have nothing and you're just, able to fall off if you're not careful.
Oh no.
Yes, I haven't worked up into some of that stuff. I have interest too, but
yes,
not right now.
What about like, of course it's on the movie, but they had the waterfalls and stuff like that, like with the mountains.
There's a bunch of waterfalls. Like I like lakes up in the mountains too. Those are great.
What you like about the lakes? Like, what you like about them?
It's a peaceful spot. You go up there, set your tent up by the lake, like especially get a good sunset or the stars and the reflections, especially in the morning. The water's always still in the morning, and you see the sun coming up and the mountains reflecting on perfectly still water.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's peaceful. That's serenity right there, man.
Yeah, you got to take a little swim in the lake.
Yeah. Well, listen, I ain't even gonna cap, man. I want to learn how to swim.
Yeah, you should.
I want to learn how to swim, man. I mean, I want to learn how to swim because it's got to be everything just to jump in the water and like, yo, I can swim. Like, I can't swim. I cannot swim, man. I can't swim. I can't even front.
I mean, if you want to learn, it's like everything else. You set a goal and be like, all right, there's always the awkward stage where you're getting out there like, all right, I got to figure this out. I look goofy doing whatever. And then you kind of work through that. And before you know it, you're done. But it's taking that first action.
Man, I got a doggy pedal before
you do the whole backstroke.
Yeah, I don't know if I'm gonna do the backstroke as long as I can swim. That's all I want to do, to be able to swim, not worry about like the level and how deep it is. Like, I don't want that to be in my mind. Like, man, this 6 foot, this 7 foot. No, I just want to swim.
You want to feel confident in the
water. Yeah. So like, if you in like 12 feet, I mean, and y'all still be talking, have whole conversations.
Not me. I don't know about that.
Yeah, I'm just saying, because y'all are like, however you tread in the water. Yeah, like you tread in the water. Nah, that's cool. But me, I wouldn't even. Yeah, man. I just want to learn how to swim, man. Like in some clear blue water.
Yeah.
That type vibe, and just being able to just be at peace with it. And I know how to swim, so
put it on the calendar, man. Start working towards it.
For sure. For sure I am. For sure I am, man. This has been like a real good conversation. Like it was a whole vibe, just talking to you. Like it was just like a normal conversation.
Right? Like two normal people hanging out talking.
For sure, for sure. It was. It's like two people having a conversation. I hear in the background. It's playing in the background
Really
too.
looking out
So
over there.
yeah. So we gotta do this again, man, for real.
Yeah, I'm so I just finished a big race. I did a 100-mile race in September.
Hmm.
And so now I'm done training for that. I'm going to go, like I was saying before, kind of shift focus to getting my blue belt in jujitsu, trying to feel like a badass, you know. Um, so yeah, once I wrap that up, maybe we reconnect.
Most deaf. Listen, I want to know about that jitsu. The jitsu, I messed that up. Is it all about mental though? Like with jitsu, and is it more
It's
of
it's a combat sport, so it's fighting. It's how to if someone grabs you or if you're in close contact with somebody, it's how to control that contact.
okay,
So
okay.
it's like if you ever watch UFC or something like that, and
Yeah, I like UFC.
when they fight and they go to the ground, typically it's
Yeah.
either wrestling or jujitsu or a mix of both. Um,
Okay,
so I did
okay.
everything on the ground, all that rolling and fighting and arm bars and
Yeah.
chokes and things like that.
Okay, okay. What's like the hardest thing about, getting your belt?
Just the discipline to keep at it. It's like the 30-day rule, right? If you don't do it consistently, you don't learn, you don't get good at it. Just like we're talking about when you go to learn a new thing, like you want to go learn swimming, like the first times you
Mhm.
start doing it, you're there like, fuck, I'm the new guy, I don't know what to do. And you do a move and you're like, oh, that looked dumb. What did you
Mhm,
saw? And everybody's over there looking at their own move and they're like, oh,
mhm.
that looked
Yeah,
dumb. And
nobody ain't paying no attention.
it off. Yeah. Um, so just staying consistent is a big thing, and then training with the right people because it's a combat sport. So we're typically learning a technique, and then we'll do like a warm up, and then we're actually like fighting each other for 6 minutes at a time. And it you have to set aside a lot of ego to be able to fight with people over and over and still be friends with them, right?
Mm.
So you have to keep your own shit checked. You have to keep your pride checked, your ego checked, and build good relationships with the people. So those are kind of the two big things: is building the relationships and just consistency, man, discipline to do it because it'll wear you out too. It's
Yeah, I mean,
a lot of work.
so basically you are gotta be disciplined enough to understand that this I mean, you fighting your people, so it's just like it's art.
Yeah, it's like play too, 'cause especially
Yeah.
if you have a good vibe with some of the
Mm.
guys, um, then you'll be in there rolling, kind of like laughing at each other, and like I'll trick them to do this and like sling him this way and make fun of them a little bit.
Yeah, yeah,
He'll
yeah.
throw me the other way and be like, "Ah, I got your bitch." And
Yeah.
go back and forth. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. But how about if you like in a competition, like like on the UFC, they be
You're
going
less
at
friendly in a
it.
competition. There's different levels, and
Okay.
when we're rolling, most of the time we're rolling it just like kind of a flowy roll where we it's more like a dance where we're going back and forth, and I'll roll you this way and I'll fight and I'll go after this. And
Yeah.
if you don't pay attention, they'll get you, but you just keep it like smooth and flowy. And then there's like competition training, and that's when you go really really hard. Like you don't you don't tap unless you absolutely have to. You're trying to like choke somebody out as hard as you can, not as hard as you can, but
Yeah,
uh,
you just basically kind of win.
yeah. So you can do like competition training, and then when you actually go and compete, then it's all cards are on the table. You go for it.
So would you want to be a part of the UFC one day?
I'm not nowhere near that level. A lot of those guys put a lot of time into training.
Yeah.
And you have to put a lot of time for a lot of years into training to perform at that level. Like you're talking about the best of the best of the best.
Hey, you almost on the way though. Look
All
at
over
the
the world.
difference. Hey, if you wanted to do it, you could do it.
I could try, but
Nah, you could do it. Like,
yes,
yeah, you
I
could. You could do whatever you put your mind to do. You could put the hours in. So you
Yeah.
could do whatever you want to do, man. That's what I just gotta
Sure.
say to you, Dave. You see how I did that? Like,
Yeah.
stop playing with yourself. Yeah, you could do whatever you want to do.
I can. I just have zero desire to be in the UFC.
Is that see? You don't have no desire, so that's
Yeah.
something different, you know.
Yeah, like if there was a clear path, I would consider it. But I've got a couple businesses that I'm running.
For sure, I got you.
Family and shit.
I got you, man.
This is my heart.
Hey, I just had to throw it out there. You know what I'm saying? You in jitsu, and I mean, you about to come to this belt. So I mean, that's how I was looking at it. I could see,
Yeah.
yo, Dave Daniel, UFC.
You
I know him. I'm gonna say I know him.
I mean, I'd be lying if I hadn't imagined it. Like in the morning before work, showers going, just like, oh yeah, kick somebody's ass.
Yeah.
No, it's not in my cards. Not in my
That was funny. Yo, that was funny right there, man. If people want to follow you on Instagram so they can see your reels, see what you got going on, like let them know your IG.
I'm Dave Danent. That's Dave DANENT for Daniel Enterprises, the name of like my first company. I'm on Instagram, TikTok, just goofing off, having fun, sharing my adventures and trying to share a little good vibes here and there,
Fact. So it's Dave DANENT.
That's it.
All right, bet. I appreciate you for coming to the podcast, man. It was a whole vibe.
Yeah, I appreciate you having me on.
For sure, man. This is what it's all about, just to connect, just the vibe, and just to be around good energy. So thank you again for coming to the podcast. I'm going to play my outro and we'll be out, people. Thank you.
Thanks, guys.
So
you can be what you want to be. See what you want to see. Go where you want to go. Why Not Us podcast with Ken J.